Very seldom do I spend time on a loom. It's a privilege to have the time, to have the meditation that when you sit at a loom. And it is only when we do something new and innovative that I get frustrated trying to explain, and I sit down and can actually show the weaver what to do. But the days of sitting at a loom go back till the 1980s, when I actually spent a lot of time on a loom, and the 1970s. We practice, of course, the brocades, the supplementary brocades, and we practice ikat. And we do many kinds of ikat. We do weft ikat, we do warp ikat. We do multiple color warp, we do multiple color weft. We do ikat with supplementary warp, we do ikat with supplementary weft. We can basically master any technique that could be presented to us. But we do this was a replica and an enlargement of a pattern that might have come from India or somewhere else, which was commissioned by an architect. One of the main staples of our business, as Janet mentioned, is the interior market. And that, you can see here, the wide width. It allows us to weave a long length and a wide width. And that is because many of our clients would be using a decorative sill for a sofa, or a chair, or a curtain. So various projects. This, for example, is a contemporary ikat where I inlaid a brocade on the bottom. So what I can say looking back on 24 years is that I run together with my husband, our staff, our team, a creative arts studio where we innovate, we design. Originality is an important part of what we do. Pushing the technical limit, i.e. the professional part. The years and years of study in Scandinavia allows me to be able to walk through your museum and be in awe of those weavers who had a ground weave, a plaid in the warp and the weft, with a supplementary brocade in a continuous or a discontinuous. I can read that and see and appreciate the knowledge and skill that was transmitted to the woman who actually created that. Now, I do that in our studio. We do it in a different way. It's contemporary, and you can see here. But it's that creativity, innovation, and continuous process of always creating new things and new designs and new styles. We practice tapestry weave. And tapestry is, of course, a technique that is not practiced much. A little bit in Burma, you have some in India, you have specific cultures. But in our interpretation is a little bit different. So you have, in each of these techniques, then you have innovation and creativity. And I'll just, while we talk about, before we move on to tapestry, but in an ikat, here you have a sample where, and I can send this around so you can see, you have the ground color. This is a weft ikat. You have a ground color, which is putty color. Then you have the background color, which is actually a dark indigo. But then you have this halftone. So one of the, when we tie it on the frame, we only tie half the frame. So we have here what I call a halftone. So you have one putty, one indigo, and it creates a third color. It's actually only tied as a two-color ikat. But its innovation is that we can create the third color with the half of the frame. So in verses, for example, just a two-color, and this is a classic I call Asian Ice. I introduced a border, and we can actually send it around. You can see the beautiful border on that, which allows us to create our weft slightly larger than the warp, take a series of ends, maybe 10 ends or 15 ends, twist them together to get a beautiful ribbed border. This is a technique or an idea that I used and found in traditional textiles from Cambodia, where an ikat tire would have created a little border. And then I have taken that and played with it in a variety of ways, creating fringe, doing other things with it. So it's based on a tradition and a technique, but then I take it, I interpret it, I stylize it, and make it something that is unique. So that is about this, how it's based on, the foundation is based on a tradition, but then it's stylized, interpreted, and created. Here, this is our master weaver, Mr. Ott, who's now a middle-aged man of about 48 years old. In this photograph, he's just in his early 20s, and used his nails to pick the design, as you can see. And he's still working for us, and his daughter, his son, and his wife, and his sister, and his nieces, and you know how it goes in family connections in Asia. This is, for example, a beautiful tapestry where I was asked to recreate a fabric from Syria. And we do actually have quite a few projects that come from ancient textiles. It could be a fabric from Indonesia or Malaysia or Syria or Iran. And the designer would like to use an element of that and interpret it into a contemporary textile. And this is an example of one of those. We have a series or different venues by which we sell and design. We make pieces actually where we teach weavers to do traditional pieces. We practice, in Laos, many of the traditional textiles employ animism. So they tell stories. And I just brought a few pieces to show where this would be a storyboard. This is a movie for an ethnic Laotian woman. She's telling how she sees the world. She sees it full of these marching elephants and birds and lion elephants who are a mythological creature that can help transport your spirit to the next universe. So all of this is like her version of a movie. And she lays down and she thinks about how she's going to tell you her story. And she does that through her textile. And so this piece, which is a Thai Lu piece, which is one of the ethnic groups that I particularly relate to because they actually practice tapestry, which is native to the United States through the Navajo and other weavers. So these are basically storyboards and the individual version of that weaver and how she wanted to tell her story. We train weavers in these. We acquire a historic piece. This was acquired through a friend who's quite an expert in textiles. She is a Laotian who left Laos in 1975, swam across the Mekong, and this was one of her precious textiles. In maybe 10 years ago, she offered it to me to replicate. Then we teach the staff how to make it, and we sell it in the showroom in Vientiane. A piece like this takes about 2 months to weave. So it's something that is extremely slow. There are very few weavers in the world that can do it. This is not just a textile you can go out and find. So we don't make many of these. We have them in the showroom, a few pieces. If you come as a visitor to Laos, or if I travel, I brought 2 versions of this, as a way of educating people about the tradition and beauty and complexity of traditional Lao weaving. The beauty of Lao silk, or beauty of any silk, gorgeous silk, is that women love to wear it. And this is, for years, you see the frames in the background. Those were actually made in Malaysia by our friend John Stuka. And wearables. We host women's groups from all over the world: Hong Kong, Tokyo, Singapore, you name it, London. And they come and we'll do a dinner, and they, hopefully they find something they like and they buy and they wear it and they love it and they send me emails and they don't leave it in a taxi. And then they're all upset because they left it in a taxi and they became attached to it. And of course, there's only one of every piece. So replicating the second piece is never quite the same. Styles. We'll use a style, a tradition, and then turn it into a contemporary piece. Might be a color, might be an inspiration from the Heliconia. Everything is fair game when you're an artist. And how you interpret and the things that you see and the way you interpret, it's all about that. And so I've been lucky and privileged to be able to earn a living for nearly 100 artisans and myself and my family over the last nearly 25 years. And it has been, when you look back on it, it seems like, oh, it was all planned. It wasn't planned. It's serendipity. It's knowing when this is our exhibition in New York in 1995 at the Fashion Institute Museum. Taking the looms, teaching a generation of students in New York, at the Pratt, at the Visual, at FIT, having the looms to teach loud technique, taking that with them, having touch samples, showing how you can sort of synthesize a culture and bring that beauty to a new audience who has never even heard of Laos, who walk down the streets of New York and are interested in fashion. I had girls from Southeast Asia in tears because their culture was on a wall in New York. And so these were possibilities, and this was in 1995. So already, do the math, a while ago. But it was early that we started to depart from traditional textiles to create contemporary textiles. And here you can see one of those where I would be commissioned by the Stock Exchange of Thailand, or by a royal family, or by an obi maker in Japan, or by a textile family from Kashmir, or whatever the project was. But knowing when it was going to be fun, it was innovative, it was going to be profitable, worth doing, and so learning from a very young age in the business how to then connect it to the market. This was an exhibition I did in San Francisco. So in each of the exhibitions, you have to find the balance, staging the historic loud textiles, which were the foundation, and then how the contemporary were built off of that. So here you can see